Good morning, everybody. Isn't it amazing how the minutes turn into hours and the hours turn into days, days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, months turn into years. And it just seems like a lifetime, right? When you're dealing with all the animosity and the bullshit from the government. Well, today, let's talk about the housing rights. Everybody has the right to housing. That is a constitutional right, human right, civil right, disability rights. And pretty much everybody in the state of Maine has some kind of disability. Everybody in the state of Maine and throughout the nation have constitutional rights, just like the government, okay? The government has no right to be evading our privacy, which would be all the cameras on every telephone pole, every business, then subpoenaing and forcing people to give up their information, and then they'll go on TV and ask for the public's assistance. Well, let me tell you something. We're going to start talking about this housing crisis. My home was burned down back in December 11th, 2021 to be exact. As far as the paperwork shows. Now, before it was burned down, Larry Dunphy, running for representative in the state of Maine, he comes from Emden, North Anson area. He had made a negative comment and threat to me on Facebook. I am requesting, as I send around a petition throughout the county of Somerset in the state of Maine, and it will be submitted to Washington, D.C. by Friday. I'm asking you all to read my petition and hear my story. I would like for you to sign it so we can send it and we can get this situation taken care of. I filed a $2.5 billion against the state of Maine, town of Anson. When I did that, what happened to my mail? Through the United States Postal Service from the federal court in Portland, Maine, I filed May 27, 2021. Where is my mail? That's another constitutional right, human right, civil right. We all have the right to receive mail. And would that happen to be because Larry Dunphy, I asked you, why don't you run with me for state rep? And you said, I gave up politics. Isn't that right, what you said? I gave up politics a long time ago is exactly what you put on social media message, along with the threat that came across from you before my home was burned by your friends. With that being said, Gordon Obert Jr. was involved in that burning. He works for the fire department. And Heather Bett, as well as Christopher Obert, if you continue to contact me by social media, follow me, harass me, any of the sort. Believe me, I've got facts that you abused your children, okay? I've got facts that you, claimed that your mother sexually assaulted you, Christopher Obert. So why are you messaging me, is my question. I've already turned you into the police many times. So with that being said, knowing that I've made those calls, I have call history, call log, and audio recording conversation. If the police do not put a stop to Christopher Obert and Heather Bett Obert, as well as Gordon Obert, start investigating him for his criminal activity and sexual assaults towards women and children. Start investigating his fraudulent activity into the Food Stamp and Social Security Administration. Find out why he was allowed to receive food stamps through Deanna, his girlfriend of all these years. Why is it, Gordon, you won't marry her again until she turns 65? Because of what? The Medicare situation? But you have benefited from all of these Social Security benefits that she gets. You get her on disability. She takes so many pills that I can't even count them. It was a board of them listed in your kitchen. And which one did you give to my daughter before you sexually assaulted her, Gordon Obert, of 94 Preble Avenue, Anson, Maine? Okay, so what about Janet Mills in that picture? The commercial with her and the children. Is that in front of her farmhouse where her brother David resides, who is a schizophrenic, paranoid, bipolar, diagnosed, and has been known by his friends to commit frivolous acts? If you ask them, they will tell you. But you see, isn't it true, Janet? Janet Mills, did you have your brother committed blue papered so it would silence him. Silence him from what the people want to know? Well, obviously you don't know anything about Farmington or Franklin County because it's hidden in the media. Let's tell you, I have information, and I want you to look up David Mills from Farmington, Maine, Janet Mills' brother. And then you look up the name Charlie Mills. He's now deceased. That was my father-in-law. And you look up Robert Mills of Bethel, Maine. He's now deceased. That was my grandfather-in-law. Okay? And what does it all lead back to? Proof, fact, and information that I have. Leading also 2002 with the Kim Morrow disappearance that happened back in the 80s. Well, you see, I've had people come forward to me that have been told to keep their mouths shut. I have been threatened. I have been abused. My vehicles have been taken from me. They have been vandalized. My daughter disappeared. She was sex trafficked from the state of Maine through Florida. Isn't that right? Maine State Police, Somerset County Sheriff's Department, Anna Love from Maine State Police, Waterville PD. Used to be Seth Roll from there, but now he's in Rockland, Maine PD. What about Dale Lancaster, Ron Blodgett? Why don't you tell me May 2nd of 2021? Who was the deputy on duty at Somerset County Sheriff's Department in North Anson, Maine, who came to my home and discussed with Philip Dickey that I was buying that home? And then, who was the same deputy or not that walked through my home, and it was on audio and surveillance cameras throughout my property? So because they didn't know where the cameras were, is that why all of the property got burned? All of the outhouses, the barns, the changing rooms for everything, whatever it may have been, everything I had was burned. Why was it condemned? Why don't you ask Jeffrey Quinn of North Anson if my house was condemnable? He spent enough time there. How about asking Dan Rankin? He knows damn well it wasn't condemnable. And I know that he's been a licensed contractor for how many years? So with that being said, I'm going to ask you all to pay attention to why I filed $2.5 billion against the town of Anson. Why did I file against the state of Maine? Why did I file against Attorney General? Why did I file against Somerset County Sheriff's Department? Why did I file against Gordon Obert Jr.? Why did I file against Jeffrey Keaton of Skowhegan, who I was told by his 13-year-old cousin back in 1991? Actually, 92, to be honest with you. That in 91, she had been sleeping with him. But it was February of 1992 when she came to me and asked me to help her do something about it. Because that would be considered statutorial rape, wouldn't it? His first cousin or second cousin? It's fucking disgusting. I've got a whole lot of information that Carl Gottardi covered up. Somerset County Sheriff's Department covered up. With that being said, we're going to lead that to the State House, and then we're going to head on over to Vermont, and we're going to share the information with that. So, please follow me, House for Justice. This is my journey to justice. And there's a book being written. It's called Why Me? And that happens to be my journey to justice, starting from the time I was a little girl, and I was picked up at the age of 6 by a pedophile motherfucker named what? Keith Partridge, the father of Daryl Partridge of North Anson. Is that why you burned my home, Daryl? Huh? Well, let's find out about the state marshal, the fire marshal for the state of Maine. Why did my house in North Anson get burned? And why did the mansion that I resided in Guilford, Maine get burned? How about that? Who were the deputies that showed up at my door, stepped in, and told me that they were scared for my life? And that what? I needed to leave within 24 hours because it was such a situation. Well, is that because I had all the paperwork that Robert Schaefer and John Frary gathered from the sex scandals at the White House? Oh,